and they like what they listen to in high school, and they kind of stop, or they don't get that interested after that.
Hmm.
Like, average, a lot of people aren't going to go, like you could go, and I could do it too, but I mean, you could go to a record store and spend 2 hours just digging through stuff, right? Just finding some weird album and going like, what's this? I mean, we would buy something we didn't know what it was, you know?
Well, there's there's some things that I wanted to bring this up. I just heard that okay, I'm gonna kind of change the subject, but I'm just roll with me
I'm
here.
rolling.
Okay,
I'm rolling with
okay.
you.
I had heard that Obama just re I don't know what's the word, the No Child Left Behind thing.
Re-upped it or
Yeah,
renewed it
yeah, which is
or
they eliminate a lot of artistic programs to, that's part of it. That's and it
so you
and
leave
it,
no
that
child behind by eliminating artistic projects? How does that work?
that's what they said on the news. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't. Well, because then they want kids to now focus more on math and English
Oh,
and
I see.
more on things that'll lead them to be, successful or whatever. I forget the
Or,
exact
well, like,
words, but by eliminating more artistic programs.
sure.
And what the point that I'm getting to is the way things are to today. I don't, I don't really know if school is promoting. I know watching Sven, Julianne, and Marla grow up and see, like, half the time they didn't even have art classes. It's only until the last, like, couple years where they, like Sven actually had a guitar class where that's what he did. He went to, class and learned how to play guitar.
Uh-huh.
But like art, stuff like that, no, there it's not. I don't think schools are promoting as much art
Well,
programs.
they
I mean, I
probably
think
aren't, but
certain
the average
programs
the
do.
average person doesn't value it. So the
Well,
average
no, but
average person thinks it's a waste of time and a waste of money. So they
no,
don't want their tax dollars going towards art because they feel like it's not art is not marketable and it doesn't help their kids get a job. So why should they be treating their kids with art? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Plus, on
yeah,
top of
but
that,
what?
they're worried that their tax money is going to go to some art that they think is really bad for them. So you always hear them talking about the National Endowment of the Arts supported some like avant-garde artist that like did pissed on a picture of Jesus.
What's happened for quite a few years, I believe this, that this lack of arts in society, as you're growing up, you got to have that to stimulate your creative mind. I mean, people can find it, without that too, but you got to remember, when we grew up, man, I mean, I had like so many art classes, and it really helped me to stay creative and to stay, focused on being creative. And you look for creative things and you live creatively, and you focus more on that type of thing in life. And now it's all like, are you going to be an ROTC, or are you going to take algebra, or you're going to, learn a foreign language, or, it's all like, it's not. I don't think society is promoting enough of, in school, at least from what I can tell, in like junior high and high school. It's very important.
Right. I think you're right. I think to some degree we might have also been the benefit of a time period where maybe there was a little bit of more emphasis on the value of art, only because you're coming out of the 60s and into the 70s, and you got that cultural revolution, and everyone thought that, like, art and music could kind of change the world. So I think you're more apt to like have people like support that with their tax money and have it be part of the school program and have it be like a big deal. But I think that history of society in America, I don't think America has ever been very supportive in on the mass public of art being valuable
Yeah,
for the
I agree.
average person's education. But I think there's another side to it that's really fun and interesting to think about, because we're talking about movies and music and all this. I think the more you get art being kind of stifled or pushed out or taken out
The
of
more rebellion.
yeah, the more out of
Yeah.
the education, it comes out in another way, because the value of art, music, whatever you want, whatever form it comes in, even if you think it's sucky art, horrible art, the value of it is that it's always been the way that people express themselves, especially like in anger or social unrest or just feeling like oppressed in any way. And sure, it may not, maybe something as big as, like the Vietnam War, or it may be something like, in the early 80s, you've got all these kids getting into punk rock because they're pissed off, the economy sucks, their parents aren't really around worrying about anything. No one seems to really care. Plus, everything is really, really, really like surface. Like all the videos and TV and everything is all like, hey, happy Cosby family, which isn't the reality around most of those kids' lives. So they've got to come out some way. So I think that art finds a way. It may just not. It may come out in a lot harsher forms because they haven't been valued their whole life. If you're, like you said, if you're valued your whole life in a school system and in your family, and everybody says art is valuable, then you're more likely to just find all kinds of different. You might go into the symphony, or you might go, become a classical painter, instead of a punk rocker or a. I think it's a really interesting point, though, and I think that it shows a lot about society that doesn't value art.
Like a good example to anybody listening out there, Bruce and myself have two half sisters and a half brother from our dad getting remarried, and they're all in their teens, and the youngest is Marla, and she's 13, and I just wanted to say that she seems to be a very, very creative person, but I'm trying to figure out if it's almost like she's having a hard time breaking through the norm of like the Jonas Brothers and Hannah Montana and like all these like just big media, what would you call them? Entertain, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, they dominate. They dominate everything, but
they dominate everything. It's like, and today, I mean, how do you break through that? There's not even any music on MTV anymore. It's like, and the radio is the same crap.
Well,
so
I think you break through
so much.
You break through in different ways, and that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the early 80s, there was no way for underground groups like the ones that were really famous for us to break through. They weren't going to get played on the radio except maybe a college radio. You couldn't go to a regular record store and find a Black Flag album, very rarely. You couldn't go and just find an album by Minor Threat and all these groups. I mean, at least now you could just go online and you could find almost any art, a video of any group that ever existed, just about. You can go onto YouTube. You could find any old TV show. So I think it's almost the reverse. It's like there's so much out there now that it has almost the same effect, right? It's so overflowing that you will just get lost because there's so much. Whereas when in the 80s, or when underground was really starting to try to make some movements before Nirvana blew up, in the early days of that, you couldn't get out there, not because there was too much information, it was because there was no way for people to get to hear you. People had to go actively find you. We'd have to literally send money in the mail to Minor Threat studios to get the new Minor Threat album, or we'd have to drive a lot of miles to go to like the one little underground record store, in Seattle, and they might have it and they might not have it. And that was it. Whereas now you could just go on iTunes and you could download whatever you want. I think it's kind of the same thing, but for a different reason. So I think that, like you're saying, I think there's always going to be kids that are artistic that are going to feel like outsiders and are going to have to struggle against this giant machine.